Hi guys. I'm trying out something new here. I'm trying to do voiceover instead of the text accompaniments you might have been used to seeing for these. So this week we're doing Duncan. One of the first things that I do is just lay out the character. With him, one of the big things was that I just wanted to sort of communicate his attitude. And that's a very kind of reserved, kind of dry character. He's also one of the oldest students at the school. So I figured that kind of keeping his hands in his pockets, kind of just getting that stance just right was kind of where I wanted to land it. And then sort of contrast that with his pose within his jelly and the silhouette of his jelly being as sort of extreme as possible. So I'm just working out sort of the subtle nuances of the fashion so that they complement the pose and don't fight the pose. Just want to sort of have a design that doesn't inhibit your ability to show the acting of the character in an instance like this. Another thing that I'm trying out this time around is to do some expression sheets, and that's always been a challenge for me because I'm not very practiced at keeping characters on model from multiple angles. I'm not really an animator, and so that's it's kind of a fun challenge, to be honest, and it's fun to explore the different emotional states a character might have. And since I'm kind of on a roll with the pose, I went ahead and did the pose that Duncan would be in his jelly before figuring out what the silhouette of the jelly itself might look like. For him, I really wanted the impression to be impressive and majestic as much as possible, since he's the oldest student and a prodigy of sorts. Once the sketch is locked in, I go in to block in the colors. For the most part, this is a really zen part of the process for me. I just kind of turn my brain off and make sure all the angles and shapes are tight. But there's a certain element of design thinking that still goes in, deciding, for instance, that his shoulders will pop, where the logo's going, how the glasses are really going to be a visual hook for him. And I wanted to kind of stylistically upgrade those from the very first concept I did to him. Duncan's one of my favorite characters from the entire story and world, and he's based on a dear friend of mine who I think is just the coolest. And so I just really wanted to capture that attitude and do him justice. I felt like it was one of those drawings and designs I really wanted to revisit since starting. One of the fun things about Duncan is that this little sort of orbiting sphere is a sort of an emoji ball that he's rigged up as a bit of a toy, kind of acting as an emotional foil to his dry sense of humor. I'm blocking in sort of the shapes and lighting of the jelly, even at the stage where the highlights are going to fall, all just trying to figure out how to communicate the dimension and shape of the jelly without using too much information and over-rendering it. The other element that I was really excited about was the constellations that he and Galileo create together. And those are his sort of unique stamp. They come from the night sky, sort of dark, firelit vibe that the design originated from to begin with. It was important to me that he have a particular marker that set him apart, and for that, it's the constellations. Now with all that blocked in, I'm going into shade on a layer set to multiply. When I do that, I like to keep that as simple as possible. I like to work some nuance into that as well, but I want to communicate everything and show everything as clearly as I can without, again, over-rendering and getting too much lost in the detail. Check it against black just to take a look at the silhouettes and the shapes. Back to white, and I'm trying to pick out his feet, his hands, these different elements of his pose inside the jelly that might get lost because the jelly itself is so complicated. A little bit of shadowing and sort of layering just to show the shape of the jelly itself. Some bloom inside there kind of pops the character out. It's all about balancing the elements just right. So, and then the final touches sort of Getting those highlights and shines just right.